It's my 310P. I'm getting ready for the 2014 annual, and the first thing I do is I fly it until I get the oil hot. It takes about 45 minutes. Land it, and I drain the oil hot, and then check the screens and all that. This is a 310P, built in 1969. It's probably the best 310 they ever built because it has all the improvements, but none of that heavy stuff. Anyway. Okay, how many almost 80-year-old guys you know can push out a 310 all by themselves? I can do it. Maybe. Okay, completed the flight. Now the first thing to do, pull the airplane in, pretty good for an old guy. Take the bugs off. It's really a great flight. The first time I'd ever got the left engine to go lean a peak. Everything's working good and beautiful day. So I'll pull it in, clean the bugs off, clean underneath, and then we'll start draining the oil after I put the battery maintainer on. And probably tomorrow, then pull the filters out. And on these particular IO 470s, the cleanest filters I've ever had on any IO 470 I've ever owned, which have been plenty. So now I'm going to show you how I pull that sucker in. Oh, then I got to sweep out the hair because I always blow crap into this. Okay, step one is I'm going to put battery maintainers on it because it's going to probably be sitting for a month. I'm going to go boating, while the thing's getting done. Also during the annual, I always remove the batteries so I can make sure there's no corrosion underneath there, and then reset them and make sure there's corrosion proofing in there. Okay, that's step one, is to get 2 cans ready for the oil to be drained out of the engines hot. And so the next step is to put them in position underneath the engines, and then get your pliers and stuff out and wrenches, and hopefully you don't get too much down in your pants. Okay, here's the scary part. Taking the oil off and getting it down into this can without getting it all over my body. So I've already loosened up and taken off the safety wire, and gotta be careful I don't drop the doggone bolt into this. And don't forget the oil's hotter than heck. Burn the crap out of your fingers. It's getting close. There it goes. Oh shit, missed. Okay. See, I got it all over my fucking self. God dang it. It's all your fault. Oh well. Oh, I gotta do the other ends, but I ain't gonna show you that one. By the way, I usually let it drain all night and then in the morning and the next day or so, pull the filters out. Okay, this is day 2 of starting my annual and getting the oil out after embarrassing myself yesterday, pouring oil all over me, which is the first time I ever done that in 40 years. And so now I'm going to remove the oil can and I put in the plug for the oil tank, and I'm using this stuff here to seal the plug and its gasket. Never has leaked, works great. So I'll get started doing that now, and then I'll tighten it up, but I'm not going to put the safety wire on until I get the filters pulled out, which is the next step. Lots of oil to keep the gophers under control. Next thing I'll do is I'll pull off the top of the engine cover so I can get at the oil filters a lot easier. Normally, it wouldn't do that unless at the annual time. So now next step is to take the cowling off, and I usually find it hard place to store these babies because it's easy to step on them later.
There's a motor in there.
I usually end up replacing one of these Zeus fasteners every time. One of them always gets screwed up. It's always the last one. Yeah, put it up on the balcony this time and keep it out of the way for a while because it's going to be off. Okay, down there is where the filter is, and you can see it. It's pretty accessible normally. It'll make a big mess and pour a lot of oil on the bottom, but that's what I do when I get the engine work done, which is the first part of the annual anyway. Okay, step 1 of this messy job is, first thing I do is I stuff rags down below the thing because I know that's going to leak oil. And then, once I get that done, I get my oil tank close by and use this to suck out all the oil, and it probably takes maybe a day or two or a couple of hours to get it all to drain down into the filter system. So step 1 is I'm going to go ahead and cut the safety wire now. What I do is I get this thing down in there so that I catch most of the oil that's going to be dripping out of the thing as soon as I get it loose. Amazing how much oil in there, and it'll drain down and fill up again and start leaking into the engine. And now it's done. First thing I do is I look at it to see if there's any crud in it. And there isn't any, but I'm just going to let it drain out oil until I get the other one. And once I let them clear out, inspect them really close, take a photograph for my A&I to check it out, and then clean them with kerosene, blow them out, and then reinstall. So this one's going to sit right here for temporary. I'll put it over on my workbench, and looking good. This is the best two IO4 Timmins I've ever had. Never had a speck of metal in any of my filters. So must be burning it or something. Those are the filters. Just after I've taken them out, absolutely clean, no carbon and no metal. Pretty good. Okay, the next thing to do after I've cleaned all these things, to show you the pictures, is to replace them. I'll have to do the safety wire later when I get the engine all done, and after all, look at the plugs cleaned and all that. So it just goes in. On the left engine, for some reason, it takes a lot longer for the oil to drain down for me to suck it out, and I don't like to leave any oil in there if I can help it. All new oil is the best thing. So now just to tighten it up, and then I will safety wire it later. All the seals are re-lubed with that stuff, and I've never had one of these leaks yet. And then I put the oil in, and I'll show you that in a minute. Usually, used to put in 11 quarts, but now I've turned that the engine runs better with 10. And then I put in 16 ounces of cam guard, which I've been using since I've had this airplane, all my airplanes actually. And that's in there. So the next step is to put oil in the engine. So I always do that, and then when I take the plugs out, I'll fire up the engine, spin them with no plugs in there, so there's no stress on any of the bearings to bring up the oil pressure, so everything gets lubed with the new oil. And there it is 10 quarts and 16 ounces of cam guard. Really works good. I like it. Always use Aeroshell 100 Plus too, because it's got anti-wear stuff in it too, so it's kind of like double engine protection. And it really works because these engines are going over TBO and they run just like new. Can't complain. Really a good thing. The other thing I just discovered on my right engine is the belt for the right alternator looked like it crapped out, so I'm going to get a new one of these and install that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is pull out the plug. So step number one is to take the leads off, and I usually use 2 wrenches to do that. This one here to hold the center one, because otherwise you can twist it and wreck the lead. So that's what I do first, and store them in a real high-tech thing for each side engines, top and bottom. I like to switch them each year, change the polarity on them, and then I clean them and gap them. Okay, now I'm pulling the plugs. I got them all out, but the last 3 got them loosened up. I gotta say, because they really look really good. Yeah, look at that thing. Absolutely clean. Needs to be gapped, but these are going to be easy to clean. And the plugs are looking really good so far on the left engine. I've got the right engine next, so I'll get started on that. Okay, I pulled all the plugs out. They look the best I've ever seen. They really look great. So now I'm going to spin up the engines, put oil pressure in both engines because there's no plugs in there and there won't be any stress on the bearings. And then we'll coat them. You picture the plugs and then clean them. Put back in the other ones, and then I'll do a borescope. Now here's the borescope that I use to check out the cylinders. Just look at the various cylinder heads and make sure that they're looking okay. Now the only cylinder I really might have a problem with are the plugs indicated a little bit too more oil on it, so I was going to check the cylinder head problems and the rings and whatnot, and they all look okay. This is number 4 on the right engine, so that's what I'm doing next. And after I get this done, then I'm going to put in the bottom plugs and do the compression check. Next step is to put in the lower plugs here so that I can do the compression check on the top ones. I mean, that's where the device goes into, and I use this Champion thread lubricant on each time I replace them in, because after the cleaning process takes off and you don't want the dumb thing sticking in there. And the lower one's always the hardest ones to get in. Then after I get them all in hand tight, I will then torque them in with my torque wrench, 25 foot-pounds, between 25 and 30 foot-pounds on those, but I'll leave the ignition wires unhooked until I can finish the compression. Okay, this is the torque wrench I've been using for umpteen years, and it works pretty good. It's manual. I got it all fancier ones for doing other stuff. And remember, it's 25 foot-pounds. So another thing is putting in the lower plugs is always kind of a touchy-feely thing. But after 40 years, it's getting easier. And that's it. Now it's 6, 7 more to go, and good shape. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a compression check. Start with first cylinder on this left engine, and you put in this attachment up here. And make sure it's tight, so it's airtight. Then rotate the engine until it's close to top dead center. Right about there. Put this in. And then holding this, I got enough air pressure in. On that one, I got about 66. There's a trick to this. Here, there it goes. Yeah, 66 on that one. And that's where I'll log that and start working my way around the different engines. Okay, I finished doing the compression check, and all the cylinders look pretty good except for one cylinder, number 4 on the right engine. It's only showing about 28 to 30 pounds, and it's probably due to the rings lining up. And I'm going to check on that, so I'm going to pull the airplane out probably tomorrow and run up the right engine. All the plugs are all back and torqued in, and I'll hook up the ignition leads just before the run up. And I'll run up the left engine too, just to make sure everything's cool. Once I'm satisfied with the engine, then I'll start on the fuselage. Next step will be to jack up and doing the gear test and all that. Okay, I've got all the plugs back in. And I'm going to go out and test run it here in a few minutes. Everything is safety wired, pictures taken, and the covers put on there. So the idea is I want to run it up, check that one cylinder on the right engine, and then get the oil circulating, and then I'm going to wash it, clean it up, pull it back in, and then be ready to start the fuselage. Okay, here I'm back. I've been 2 weeks out on the boat, and so now I'm coming back to finish the angle on the 310. And now it's the airframe part, so the step one is to jack it up, and then I'll start taking off the covers and doing that inspection, pulling out the interior to look at the gas lines and all that. So step one again is to jack it up, which I'll show you how to do, and then I'm going to pull the battery boxes out to make sure there's any corrosion underneath, repaint if necessary, do a little sodium in there, and go from there. Okay, one of the key things here is placing the jacks in the right place, such that you can run the wheels up on your turn with the jack, and it will not affect the gear covers. There's little jacking points here. You just line it up. There, and it goes like that. This one looks pretty clear here. Oops, I'm going to move it definitely this way. And it's clear. And there's two more jacks that go up on the nose gear, and you only need one, but I usually use two, just to be safe. And then once I jack it up, I put safety rings about it so that I can leave it overnight without worrying about one of the jacks deflating and things happen. Okay, then those are jacks I set on about 6 inches of wood, just so that I can make sure I get high enough height out of here to clear this nose wheel coming up. It's the same kind of thing, and this way, so it's clear and everything. Make sure it lines up with that, and it's ready to jack up. Next step, start jacking the plane. Okay, what I'd like to do first is make sure everything is turned right. But I don't like it the way it is. There we go. Then tighten up the valve. I do have, once I get it pumped up there, I put underneath it, push underneath the chip, get it all lined up. So it hits a jacking point pretty much on center. There we go. And put a little pressure so I can let this land a little bit, and I'll do the other side next. Okay, step two is start doing the main jacks. And with those, make sure the valves are closed and it lines up the same way. Perfect. And so what I'll do is I'll just take up a couple inches on each side, and then go to the other side and do that. So now I'm technically just keep going around the airplane until I get it jacked up high enough to put an inch or two on each of the main wheels and the nose wheel. Trying to keep it even. Okay, all wheels are about 2 inches off the ground. Airplane suspended in the air. So the next step I do is I tighten up these things. It keeps the thing from deflating. It's little rings. And do that all the way around. And so then it protects the airplane from sinking down overnight or something and getting off, falling off the jacks. I do the same thing with those over there in the forward area of the aircraft too. And then start taking. So it's now to and remove the inspection covers. I use this. I'm set on a very low setting. I figure I'm going to lose a couple, 3 screws. they won't quite come out or whatever reason, end up drilling them out. And also, if one of them falls down, it'll bounce to the next county. So I always have a lot of screws in inventory on hand to replace those. And when I put them back in, I also put them back in at a very low setting. And this particular action, because the way it works, will set them in tight enough, last for many, many angles. So I'll show you go through it. This little gizmo too is something I got. It really helps get that. I only take out the ones that I know about that I have to look at and see if something needs to be lubricated or checked for cracking or something like that. So I don't take out 100% of them. Then I know which one to do. Always put the screws back up there to keep them in where they are, and I can always find them. And I know when I'm short one. So it's no real big deal. Later on, I always test the flaps and do all that stuff and lubricate the various joints. But before I like to inspect it before going through the cleaning process. Okay, we got the fuselage and engine open for inspection. Things like, that's where the thing is, the fuel filters. Up in there where the gas line's run, we can check that. And those things are for the flaps and other mechanisms. Underneath here is getting ready for the gas and the gear retraction. Pull the covers off the props, and both of them look really good. No leaks, which indicates there's a problem. Here's where the heater system is, and we do get some corrosion from now and then, but that's been pretty well taken care of, and we corrosion proof it every couple of years. This on this side is where the electrical equipment is, and that's the HSI there. And down here is other electrical components, which is covered up again. This is corrosion proof, really good shape. Over here is where one of the air filters are and the wing roots, and one of the things I like to check is make sure that the wings are on there really well, and so are the attachment points. Engine, air filter, and all that, which we've done already. This is the left prop, still looks good, no stains, good for another 25 years at least. Yeah, you believe that. Here, this is the left wing fuel system here, and I want to look at that really close because we did do some installation there, and all that. It's all plumbed to put in the aux tanks in the wing lockers. Again, open. I like to open up the thing behind the exhaust and really flush that out when we pull the batteries and all that. This is the thing on the wing tank attachments, and look at back, and there's a pump behind there, and where the landing light is, and you can look at that with a mirror, make sure there's no fuel leakage. That's a pump that they added when they were using these things commercially, and when making a steep descent, the engines would quit, so they put a pump back there, which nobody ever uses, and I've disconnected the thing. And up here is in the tail and lubrication stuff, and really looks clean at the moment. And the last thing is that, but then this area here, which is very well lubed, but needs to be checked every year. Okay, times to take out the battery box. I do every year almost. To check and see if there's any corrosion down there. There's a little bit by that pipe, which is a drain line out of the battery. Put a little solvent on that, clean it up and repaint it and reinstall it. As far as the battery box itself is concerned, it looks pretty good. And I'll put a little more paint on that. Put the batteries back in for charging, and clean up the contacts and put it back in and get ready for the gear test. Need the power for that. Okay, after I get in there and clean it best I can with sodium, a little bit of light sodium water in the battery box area and around it, I get in and give it a wipe down with ACF 50, which is an anti-corrosive, and I squirt it in a little further when I can't get my hand in there with that little device below. Now I use a different methodology for corrosion proofing the airplane using a special filter system that uses a spray nozzle that keeps the microns around 20 microns, which goes throughout the airplane and coats a lot better. I'll show that later. I don't know if you can see the fog in there now after I sprayed in the ACF 50 in a very tight thing, but it's now fogged the whole inside. Of the battery box area, and then the next thing is to clean the areas that I'm going to repaint and then reinstall and get ready for the gear test. Well, the next thing I do is water up the batteries. Most of them look pretty good. It'll take a little bit of distilled water to get them up to the level. That one battery is about 3 years old, and the other one's 2 years old, and they're both running pretty good right now. And then once I get that done, reinstall the battery box. It's painted the area, it's uncorroded, and ready to go. Okay, the next step is to get all this stuff out of the interior so I can rip it all out and get at the covers for the accessory to when we do the gear test. Up there's a bunch of hats. Here's a backup radio and an aviator, which is a GPS, and a bunch of manuals. Then here I've got more manuals and a bottle of oxygen, some extra hearing aids and things like that, and everything's out and ready to go. See if I can work out a deal, because I tore this all out when I put in the left mixture cable, and so I know it's all okay and lubricated, but I might have to pull it out for inspection. And then that happens to be a stereo set down there, which I've never used. And then the back seats, and I got two other seats that I have stored over to the side, which I never use, the fifth and sixth seats. And so we're ready to go. Oh, there's a couple of things I wanted to show out here. Life jackets and some extra clothes and some more manuals and more paperwork down there. And then the portable bathrooms. One on the right is the ladies' version, and the one on the left is the guys' versions. Very handy to have, believe me. Now to tear it out. Okay, I got all the stuff out of the interior. I'm not going to take out that last plate. You can see underneath it to the key areas, and they're all lubed from the last time I did it. Left on the front seat. I had a really bad time getting out the right second seat because the bolt had frozen in, and I had to work a deal to get that out. And then the aft end, here's the autopilot over here, and the emergency system with that thing in the yellow on the right. And looks pretty good back there. Don't see any problems with that. All my hats are in good shape. Now we're doing the gear test. I got 3 green lights. Okay. That looks good. Okay, I'm going to start bringing the gear out. Okay. About halfway. Well, yeah, halfway. Are they clear? Yeah, they're clear. Okay, come up the rest of the way. Yeah, now I'm going to hand crank it down. Okay. Where do you want me? The horn works. Okay. Front all the way down. Okay. Down and lock. Okay. Well, good to me. I got green lights on all sides. Okay. Okay. Right there? I think so. Okay. I'm going to shut them off and take a look at that. the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the flaps up so that clears the jacks. When I start lowering things down, I don't hit anything. And flaps have been lubricated, do it every year, though some things you don't have to lubricate too often, so that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, the next step after having it inspected by Raleigh Johnson, who's been inspecting my aircraft over 10 years. He found several things to be fixed, a couple of safety wires to be replaced, one tightened, broken cable clamp, that's all been done, and a small ding in the right propeller, which I need to polish out. And then there's a placard from an AD note that says that it prohibits flying this aircraft into known ice, which anybody already knows, but the FAA's got to keep busy. So I have reattached the gear cover doors to the gear, and I'm getting ready to lower it off the jack. So, okay, the secret to lowering it on the jacks is to do a little bit on each jack, and slowly bring the airplane down in kind of a low way. And then first thing I did is remove the locks on all the jacks so that it's ready to come down. So I'll start with this side, and we'll just lower it maybe at a couple inches, and then the other side, and so on, and then go to the nose wheel side. Okay, it's back in its own wheels now, and all the compressions in the various struts are right where they're supposed to be. And so now just remove the jacks and start put it back together and closing things up. Okay, it's all back together. Seats are in there, and the rods and all that. It's a major thing for an old guy, and he's kind of poop for the day. So tomorrow I'll put in the paperwork and earphones and all accessories in the men's and women's bathroom, and polish it up a bit, and then do a test fly, and we'll call it a day.
You want to be a show off?
Huh?
Being a show off?
I can get it out by myself too.
Yeah.
How many 89-year-old guys, or 86, or 76, can do that?
Good thing you don't have a 340.